jail. Not on the jail, on the bill for this domestic terrorism new bill that came out for the Department of Justice. And Jerry Nadler was on the House floor, and he was talking about white supremacy, and he was bringing up the terrible shooting that happened in New York, but totally ignoring the shooting that happened in California that I think involved an Asian man that was the shooter, totally ignoring the guy that drove his car, black man that drove his car through a Christmas parade, killing people and was a racist himself, completely ignoring the black man that did the New York subway shooting. You know, these people are all guilty of these crimes, and it's not about race. It shouldn't be about race, but they're clearly racist as well. So white supremacy shouldn't be the main target. We should be more concerned about the illegal invasion at the border, the crime happening every single day on our streets, and especially in cities like Chicago. We should go after criminals that break the law and not pursue people based on their skin color and how they vote. But that's what the Democrats want to do.
Here, Marjorie Taylor Greene is employing some very, very basic whataboutism to try and distract you from the fact that white supremacy is a problem in this country. I wonder why. Now, the way she's doing this is by pointing to the fact that, aside from white supremacist crimes, there are also other crimes. In other words, because other crimes exist, then apparently white supremacy isn't a real problem. So as long as a random Asian man commits a crime, then that negates all of the white supremacist crimes. Are you convinced yet? In reality, white supremacy is not only a serious issue that shouldn't just be disregarded simply because of the existence of crimes perpetrated by other races, but it's actually the biggest threat that we face as a nation right now. The nation's top law enforcement officials have said expressly that the greatest domestic threat facing the US comes from racially motivated violent extremists. Quote, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race. Like, I'm old enough to remember when we spent $2 trillion and 20 years fighting a war in the Middle East because that's how seriously we took radical Islamic terror and the threats that came with it. $2 trillion in 20 years. I don't remember a time in my life where we weren't at war in the Middle East. And yet now, when the threat of white supremacist domestic terrorism is far, far higher than the threats that we faced in the aftermath of 9/11, we've got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene out there running defense for the white supremacists. I mean, she literally says we should pursue people who break the law and not because of their skin color. I'm sorry, but does Marjorie Taylor Greene know why these white supremacists are the focus of nationwide attention? Does she think it's because of their dancing videos on TikTok? Because of their cooking skills? It is because they keep breaking the law. Dylan Roof killed 9 black parishioners in Charleston. The Tree of Life synagogue shooter killed 11 Jews in Pittsburgh. The El Paso shooter killed 23 Latinos and immigrants at a Walmart. And of course, this latest shooter in Buffalo, an avowed neo-Nazi, traveled to the blackest zip code in New York and killed 10 people. So despite what Greene says, no, we are not focusing on these people solely because of the color of their skin. We are focusing on them because they are slaughtering other people because of the color of their skin. And if you want to know why the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, along with the rest of her caucus, refuse to act or even acknowledge that there's a problem, it's because the same exact people who are committing these crimes are allies to their party. Period. Republicans rely on the support that they get from these people, and so Republicans aren't going to do anything to alienate those people, like by, for example, categorizing their activity as a federal crime. You'd have to have your head buried 5 feet in the sand if you don't see the links between these white militia groups like the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters and the Proud Boys and the Republican Party. In fact, the leader of the Oath Keepers and 10 others were charged with seditious conspiracy for their participation in the January 6th insurrection, the event incited by Donald Trump himself. The link between those people and that party could not be more obvious. And so when the House voted 222 to 203 in favor of the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Bill, and only one single Republican, Adam Kinzinger, voted in favor, now you know why. It's because they're not going to do anything to alienate the people whose support they want. So they'll continue to do their whataboutism every time someone who's not a white supremacist commits a crime. They'll continue to mainstream white replacement theory like Tucker Carlson does on a nightly basis. They'll continue to promote those same ideas in Congress like Elise Stefanik and Matt Gaetz do. They will do everything they can to make you think that white supremacy isn't a problem because they don't want us to believe our own eyes. But this really isn't that hard. If you refuse to oppose white supremacists, then you support them. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And to support my work beyond that, check out my podcast, No Lie with Marjorie Taylor Cohen, where I cover the week's most important stories and interview the biggest players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, and so many more. The link is also right here on this screen. And finally, to take action yourself and sign petitions on the most important issues, go to briantylercohen.com/petition.